Hello and welcome to another English class. Today we are looking at linking words for contrast, specifically these words, although, even though, and though. Now these are called conjunctions, but you can call them linking words. We're going to focus on the grammar and the position, not the terminology. So these words are always followed by a subject and a verb. Let's have a look. Although plus subject plus verb, although plus subject plus verb, even though plus subject plus verb, even though plus subject plus verb, and though plus subject plus verb. It is. Though plus subject plus verb. It is. Now let's have a look at the position. This sentence has two clauses. Clause 1, comma, clause 2. This sentence has two clauses. Clause 1, comma, clause 2. All these sentences have two clauses, separated by a comma. Okay? And as you can see, we can use these words at the beginning of the first clause or the second clause. Okay? Now let's have a look at the sentences. Although she has a car, she doesn't drive to work. Now these are linking words for contrast, and there's the contrast. She has a car, but she doesn't drive to work. So that's a contrast. Although she has a car, she doesn't drive to work. Okay? Beginning of the second clause. She has a car, comma, although she doesn't drive to work. Now let's look at even though. Even though is used when it's more emphatic, when the contrast is surprising. Okay? Even though they offered more money, comma, I didn't take the job. The punctuation is very important here. Not when you speak, obviously, because when you speak you don't say comma, full stop, exclamation mark. You don't use the words. But when we write, it's very important that you use the punctuation correctly. Okay? Even though they offered more money, I didn't take the job. Or at the beginning of the second clause, I didn't take the job, even though they offered me more money. There's a comma there, as you can see. Now, though is more formal at the beginning, and it's less common in general in these types of sentences. But I did another video on though just a couple of days ago, and you can see that video. The reason I did a special video for though is because it has more uses than although and even though. They have the same meaning, but though has more uses, and in these sentences it's less common. This is more common, and this is used for emphatic contrast. But this though in these sentences is less common. You can use it, but it's less common. It's very, very common in the other uses, which they don't have. That's why it's more common, obviously, because it's not the only option, but it is sometimes the only option. So, though it's sad to say goodbye, I had to leave. Two clauses at the beginning of the first clause or at the beginning of the second clause. I had to leave, though it's sad to say goodbye. Okay? I'll put this video next to that video in my playlist. If you go to my channel and look for playlist, you'll see English classes. That's the only playlist. And all the classes are there in a nice, sensible order. And I'll put this video next to the video with though and nevertheless and however and even so. Okay, so you can see all the information you need. And there's an old video as well that I did with this information, but the board was at a strange angle, so I decided to do this again. Okay, now I hope that's very clear. Let's look at these words, despite or in spite of. Now they have the same meaning as this. They are used for contrasting information, but the grammar is very different. These words are followed by objects or ing verbs, or this, that, those pronouns, or the fact that. Now, depending on the sentence, you might want to use this, or this, or this, or this, okay? Now remember, despite, in spite of, not despite of, it's despite or in spite of. Now they're both the same, but you have a choice, one word or three words. Okay, let's have a look. Despite living close we rarely see each other. So here I'm using ing. Now I can only use the ing verb if the subject for this clause is the same as the subject for this clause. So we live close, we rarely see each other. So the subjects are the same, so I can use ing. I cannot use the ing verb if the subject for this clause is different from this clause. I'll show you an example later. Despite living close, we rarely see each other. Now, here's how we say this using although. Although we live close, we rarely see each other. So you see, despite plus ing, although plus subject plus verb. You cannot say despite we live close. That is grammatically terrible. You cannot use despite plus subject plus verb. These words are followed by subject and verb. These words are followed by object or ing or this, that pronouns or the fact that. Next, let's use an object. Despite the rain, I went out. Nice simple sentence. Despite the rain here is the object. It's not a subject because there's no verb after the rain. Okay? Now let's have a look at although for the same sentence. Although it was raining, you see? It was raining, I went out. Now you can also say although the weather was bad, I went out. Now I used the weather here and the rain here, but you could use the rain in this sentence as well, and that's how you know this is an object because there's no verb. Here it's followed by a verb, so you know this is a subject. Although the rain was bad or the weather was bad, I went out. Despite the rain, despite the weather, comma, I went out. Here it's just an object because there's no verb directly after it. Okay? Now let's use this pronoun here. We could use these pronouns. This is more common. It was a really long journey. Despite that, that's what that means. This is that. Despite that, I wasn't tired. It was a really long journey. Full stop. Despite that, this fact here, I wasn't tired. Now, let's use even though. Even though the journey was long, I wasn't tired. Even though plus subject plus verb, okay? But you cannot follow despite with a subject and a verb. The same information, but different grammar. Now finally, let's use the fact that. Now the fact that is used when we can't use an ing verb or an object. And this follows the same grammar as this. Despite the I'm using in spite of this time. In spite of the fact that they spoke very quickly, I understood them completely. Now, I can't use ing because they spoke and I understood. So these are different subjects, okay? So I can't use ing. Now, what about an object? Can I use an object? In spite of their fast speech, their quick talking, it's a bit strange. I can't use that because this is the first clause. So I use the fact that. And the fact that is followed by subject and verb. So you could say, despite the fact that we live close, despite the fact that the weather was bad. I feel like I'm causing more confusion now, so I'm going to stop doing that. In spite of the fact that they spoke very quickly, I understood them completely. And although they spoke very quickly, I understood them completely. Okay, so the fact that is followed by a subject verb. Okay, so it's technically exactly the same as although, except you have to use the fact that. I feel like that was going well until the end when I felt like I was maybe creating more confusion. But ignore that part. I hope it was very clear. I hope you understood it. If you have any doubts or questions, just let me know and I'll clarify those for you. Remember, I did another video about this, so maybe that video is more clear, but the board is at a different angle and maybe harder to see. So, between the 3 videos, I'm sure you will get all the information you need and I'm sure it will be very clear. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for regular English videos. Hit like, hit thumbs up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And as I said, leave a comment if you have any doubts or questions. And share this if you know someone who's learning English. This could be very useful for them. Until next time, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.